Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's boardzy, and every so often a budget mouse comes along that just exceeds all expectations, and that is what the IPI Float is. This is a $50 42-gram mouse that stacks up very well with the Finalmouse ULX medium shape-wise. It has a 3395 sensor, it uses Kill 8.0 V2 mechanical switches, and there is a version of this same OEM shape from Attack Shark for $70, which does have a 3950 and opticals. I have not tested that version, but I can imagine it will be maybe a slightly more premium experience. Quality-wise, really nothing to note with this. It is advertised as a carbon composite material, and the shell does feel very rigid. Like, there are no issues with flexing, creaking, anything like that, and I can't pretend that this being just like 3 or 4 grams heavier than a ULX medium causes any type of disadvantage. So really, weight, feel, shape-wise, this does get a pass. Even the coating is much better than something like a Batch 1 Arbiter or Akitsu. Like, there is some type of a rubberized feel to it. The holes on the side are a bit larger than I prefer, but really they didn't cause any issue with my fingers like sinking into it. Yeah, honestly, the triangular holes, they did not bother me, and I was thinking that something, maybe the coating, the build, the holes on the side would bother me with this being a $50 mouse, but everything was really solid. I did get this secondhand from a reviewer, so I did not test the stock skates, but I believe they're just like black dyed PTFE skates, so you probably will want to throw something aftermarket on. But yeah, this mouse, it just holds up in pretty much every standard. Click quality is another thing I was kind of worried about. And yeah, one thing I do notice is that before I click in, that there is like a lot of side-to-side wobble on the clicks, and these are something that maybe like a few months down the line, if you are very hard on them, they could get like crunchy, kind of like mushy sounding, creaky feeling. So there is that to worry about. And click-wise, these are Kale blade switches. I believe they're Kill 8.0s, just like the revamped modernized version, and these have a really quick rebound, just a nice like light crisp mechanical click feel to it. So that is once again like similar to Finalmouse, who have the Huano blue shell pink dots, but if you do get the Attack Shark version, those do come with Omron opticals, and there's also a web driver compared to just like the somewhat sketchy driver that this mouse comes with. I do think web software should just really be a standard thing, but yeah, click latency wise, they did not feel unresponsive whatsoever. I was just, like, testing it in a Kovac scenario, and I even got a high score to my surprise. And for those of you who've watched many of my videos, you know I like to nitpick click feel, so I would say like maybe these are a little bit heavier than Finalmouse's mechanicals, and you don't get as much of a physical tactile response, but it's not like I performed so much worse in game with this, or the click latency felt noticeably worse. One thing though is with the wireless 3395 sensor, not like the best firmware similar to Finalmouse and Endgame Gear, who have 3395 implementations. This did at some points like feel kind of floaty. I would make like a large flick and I would just feel like screen tearing almost. But again, I was able to perform with it. It's not like it was a really lackluster implementation, especially for people who are buying like a $50 budget mouse. You probably don't have a 480Hz OLED monitor. So I don't want to make it seem like the performance is noticeably bad, but it's probably on a similar level to MCHO's, where I just would not rate it as highly as like Skyrox, some of these other like popular budget brands, even like ATK. And yeah, with the implementation, the last thing I want to say is that there were at some points like a little micro lag. I don't really know what caused it. When I did test with other dongles plugged in for wireless interference, it was really bad, like noticeably off. I thought I was on Bluetooth mode. But yeah, that is something I've noticed with a lot of budget brands. Even WL Mouse seems especially susceptible to wireless interference. It's not the best of the best. This isn't outperforming Razer. Can everybody agree with that, maybe? And yeah, as I mentioned, I can't speak for the Attack Shark version, but that does have a 3950. They're not a company really known for their firmware and performance, but like I said, it could perform better. The ULX is like a noticeably tighter, like cleaner feeling sensor implementation. Again, for the average person, does that make the mouse worth like 4x the price? Absolutely not. The weight difference though, it is very noticeable, and the balancing is also better on the ULX, but it's not bad on the IPI Float. Like, I don't know what company this is, like if they're some type of a sub brand. Shape-wise, I just realized I haven't really compared it to the ULX Medium, because it's not a one-to-one clone. As you can see, the ULX Medium definitely has a bit more like curvature to the side of the mouse. I'm not sure how easy it is to pick up on camera, but the ULX is definitely lower towards the back of the mouse. If you're to claw the mouse, you can definitely feel like the back of the mouse, it just feels thinner and in a farther back part of your palm, if that makes sense. So it's maybe a little bit more viable for claw grip, but I'd place them in a pretty similar category. The shape, it's not going to blow you away if you've tried a Finalmouse or any type of Finalmouse clone, but yeah, it's less of a one-to-one direct clone than something like the WO mouse is. And yeah, for me with 21 by 11 hands, the only Finalmouse shape that really works for claw is the large, and even that just doesn't feel as good as a Viper V3 Pro. At first I thought the IPI Float was more of an Arbiter or Kitsu clone, but as you can see, that is much smaller, thinner, more of a competitor with the ULX Small. But yeah, the IPI Float, unironically, is much more well-rounded than this batch 1 of Kitsu was, but I do think it has improved since then. And yeah, now for the side buttons, sort of running out of features to discuss. These are positioned pretty well. They protrude a lot from the mouse. They do have a very, like, crisp and stiff click feeling. Like, this is not mushy at all. There's quite literally, like, close to zero pre-travel. But yeah, it's not the lightest side button. There's definitely, like, a good amount of grams of actuation force, but it is a very premium crisp click feeling, which is much better than most budget mouse side buttons, so that's good. The scroll wheel just feels very generic. Like, I don't even know the words to describe these generic wheels because I've just tried like dozens of them. Just feels like an average scroll wheel. And yeah, all in all, this is what it sets out to be. It is a $50 viable Finalmouse alternative. Obviously, when you stack the features up head to head, it doesn't outclass it, but considering the price, it's really a great mouse. I'm not going to pretend there aren't plenty of other mice, plastic mice even, sub 40 grams, but this, if you're looking for a ULX medium, it's much cheaper than something like the WL mouse even, which was considered like a budget Finalmouse option. And I have had this unit for less than a week. I can't guarantee the quality of your unit, but I was really impressed with just the build and the structure of this mouse. Really, the only thing I was worried about is that amount of side-to-side wobble on the left click. So this will wind up receiving the boardzy budget seal of approval because really $50, no major shortcomings. What more can you ask for? Yeah, if there is more that you want, it could possibly be found on the Attack Shark R5, like I mentioned, the other version of this mouse. This was in no way sponsored. Like I said, I don't even know who the fuck IPI are, but they produced a pretty solid Finalmouse-esque mouse. Like and sub if you enjoyed. Any comments, questions, let me know down below. And yeah, that's all. Peace out.